What's up, ladies, gents, and everyone in between? Shoebooty Sports coming at you Tuesday. I guess it's evening. The sun's still out, though, because it's spring. But anyway, I'm Grandpa on this screen. That's Bradley Brown on the other. Say what's up, Bradley.
What's happening?
Few things here and there, lots of March Madness, and it's been sort of madness, at least in the early rounds. We'll talk about that and then some. But first, before we get going, y'all know the drill. We're going to give a quick shout out to our sponsor. Shoe Booty Sports is presented by Rhino Races. Rhino Races is a virtual race series that offers 5 different races: a 5K, 10K, half marathon, a marathon, and the one of a kind Rhino Ultra. You can sign up for one or all 5 of their races at rhinoraces.com. Run your race at your convenience. Track it with your fitness app of choice. Screenshot your results as proof of completion. Submit that screenshot to rhinoraces.com under the submit results section. Once your results are verified by Rhino Races staff, your reward will be shipped to you by mail. Also, check out their gear section while you're there for t-shirts, wristbands, decals, and more. That's rhinoraces.com. Rhino Races is the premier virtual running series, and you can find us, Shoe Booty Sports, on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on X at Shoebooty Sports. March Madness underway. We are into the round of 16 now. I don't know if you have our bracket handy. I was just curious to see how
I
we
do.
did. Okay. How did we do on that? Just quick
Right
summary.
now we're at a 66.8 percentile. Correct. The one I filled out for our fantasy league is somehow 97% correct. Not
Wow.
really sure how that one happened.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, going at going at ours, of course, uh everybody called Texas making its way to the Sweet 16, right? So I think that hurt us the most on this one. Um, that and Florida getting bounced didn't do us any favors. Of course, they didn't do anybody any favors for that. So, um, but yeah, there's a couple of close calls that we had wrong, like the Vandy Nebraska game, but we did call High Point, so that's a good call on that one.
That is a
But
good
I
one.
didn't call I didn't do High Point on my personal bracket for some reason. So boo.
Boo on that, but at least we got
Yeah.
it on this one. The one that matters for this show anyway. Who were our final four picks?
Final four, we have Duke, Houston, and Arizona and Michigan.
Our final four picks are still alive. So good on that. Okay, we made our picks last week. This week we are seeing how things happened, and there were some upsets. Of course, some 12s beating fives, and the big one was what? I'm kind of scatterbrained at the moment. What was the big upset other than Florida getting bounced by Iowa? I guess is the big one, right?
Yeah, I mean that's a huge upset. Early in the first round, it was of course High Point in Wisconsin. But man, it'd have to be hands down Texas over Gonzaga, I would say.
I don't really see that as a big upset. I'm not even really surprised at High Point over Wisconsin because the 12 always beats a five.
Well, I don't
And
know, a 9 over 1's pretty high up there. Florida getting bounced. That's a pretty big one.
that's the big one to me. Again, I'm not surprised that 12 beat a five because it always happens. I'm not surprised. Texas, did we have Texas beating BYU?
No, I was lobbying for Texas to beat BYU, but we picked BYU.
Okay. Because in my other bracket, a couple of my other brackets, I did pick Texas to beat BYU. I didn't have them getting to the round of 16, but I did have them beating BYU in some of them. But we didn't on this one, so it's what it is there. But I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that they one beat BYU. I guess I'm surprised they got to the round of 16, but I'm not surprised they beat Gonzaga though. So I guess I'm not surprised that they got to the round of 16. Texas has been battle tested. They played in a very tough league, a league being the SEC that had the most teams get into the NCAA tournament. You could argue they could have let one or two more in, at least one more. I think if Oklahoma would have gotten in, I don't think anybody would have really batted an eye too much. Uh, I mean, the record wasn't great overall, but I mean, again, played in a really tough conference and we're playing well at the end of the season. Gave Arkansas really all it wanted. So I'm not surprised Texas beat Gonzaga. Gonzaga is just, I don't know, Arkansas beat Gonzaga a couple of years ago. And back when Gonzaga was a 1 seed. So I'm not too surprised by that. Not even surprised by that really. Um but the big okay, so do games resume the round of 16? Do they resume Thursday?
Yes, yep, on the 26th. So
Okay. And Arkansas plays Arizona, top seeded Arizona.
yeah, I think that one would be a late night game, you would imagine.
It's an
So
8:45 p.m. game. It's already been announced.
okay. I
So
do know that the Vegas spread initially opened up at 9.5 in favor of Arizona. Uh, a lot of people jumped on the Hogs to cover that spread, so it has made its way down to about a 6 point spread right now.
Arkansas has been the trendy pick. The Razorbacks have been the trendy pick by many people on TV and online, and it's largely because of Darius Acuff Jr., who is probably the biggest star in the tournament at this point.
Yeah, he leads in scoring in the tournament. So,
Well, he had 34 against High Point. That was of course, you and I watched that game together. You came over here to watch it.
yep.
Very, very entertaining game. It
Yes.
was it was not boring. It was closer than I wanted it to be, but just from a fan standpoint, very entertaining game.
Yeah, it's great watching a basketball game and getting a cardio workout at the same time. It's fantastic.
And it there haven't they've let them play. The officials have let them play more this tournament. SEC, I was critical of SEC officiating all year. There were a lot of fouls called in conference play throughout the year.
Some phantom fouls, man, especially in that Bama game. So,
Yeah, and that game it was one sided. That's what irked me in the Alabama game. It like if you're going to call it that way, just call it both ways. Don't call it one way just because you're in Tuscaloosa playing the game. But that's what happened, and yeah, we ended up we had a classic game that at least from the Arkansas fans' perspective, and rightfully so, not always, but in this case, rightfully so, they had a gripe with the officiating. They felt robbed of. I wouldn't even say I would say a win, but I think they just got robbed of. I don't know, fairness. There you go. Uh, they haven't done that this tournament. That's in the NCAA tournament. They've let them play. I think it's been pretty well officiated for the most part. I don't know what's said before these things, but I'm sure the SEC in particular has heard all season complaints from not just Arkansas fans, but just fans in general about how the games have been called, and they haven't done that in the NCAA tournament, which I'm glad to see. That it's made for a pretty fun tournament, and why High Point in Arkansas was so fast paced and like the first half went by very quick. It felt like.
like a NBA quarter, it was over that quick.
Yeah, and just was like a track meet. The guard, I can't remember the guard's name for High Point, who had 30 something points. Amazing game by him. Uh, good run by
He's
High Point.
fast.
Yeah, good run by High Point. They just ran into a more talented team in Arkansas that's played with six guys in these first two games. I imagine Nick Pringle is going to be ready to go by Thursday. I mean, there's no word on that, but I would think so, right?
Yeah, I'm in that same boat. I haven't heard any definitive word yet, but you would think after over a week of rest that he would be ready to go.
Yeah, and he seemed. I mean, playing is one thing. Being on the sideline is one thing, and then playing is a completely different thing. But he's looked pretty. He's looked okay. Um, in post game, in the post game when he's behind his teammates when they're interviewing Acuff, which is how it's been the last couple of games. Uh, we're both still. I mean, Arizona's the favorite, though, right? Are we going to change that up at all?
No, not going to change it up. It's like what Calipari said earlier today on Pat McAfee. He's like, yeah, Arizona probably is the best team in the tournament right now. But
Probably,
hey,
yeah.
it's all about what you can do in this one single game, and you know what? We'll go out there and see if we can't pull off the upset. So
That's the thing. You just got to beat them once. It's not a best of seven, and but you're playing a team that's what 34-2.
yeah,
Yeah, they've
they've
only
only
lost
lost
two.
two.
Only lost two games all season. I mean, Arkansas had a very tough non-conference schedule. Got through it looking pretty good. Had a really good SEC schedule.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. They play in the SEC, which is a tough league. There's not really many gimmies. Uh, the Big 12 isn't a slouch league when it comes to basketball. Now they've taken a hit in football ever since the departure of Texas and Oklahoma, but the basketball in that conference has been just fine. Arizona, Houston, Texas Tech, Kansas, uh, TCU won their first. They won their first round game in the tournament. It's a really good basketball conference. So they're not coming in. It's not like Gonzaga. It's not like Gonzaga where you come in, you didn't really have a lot of competition. You were the clear cut favorite throughout the year. I know they have one rival, and Gonzaga's switching conferences after this season. I think they're going to be part of the new Pac-12. Is that right?
Don't get me lying to you.
I
Not
think
sure on
that's
that one.
correct. I'm not 100%, but I think I heard that. So if I'm wrong, feel free to tell me. But I'm telling you here, I think that's what's happening. If not, so be it. But Arizona is not in that same situation. The Big 12 is very much a very good basketball conference, very competitive league. Okay. Yeah, we're both going to go Arizona. Other than the obvious on paper, Darius Acuff is the best player on the floor, even with Arizona. And Arkansas is a very good is a talented team. Arizona obviously is. The big difference in this one is got to be depth, right?
So if I said that Acuff ends the night with, we'll say, puts another 49 points up, do we win or lose?
You said 49,
Yeah, like he did versus Alabama.
and Arkansas lost that game. Uh, I'm still going to say a loss. It's Acuff can drop 50, and it's going to help. It's going to be a good thing. Like he's a walking at least 22, right? Now, if you tell me he and somebody else have a big game, then I say they got a chance. But like Malik Thomas is going to have a big time game. Arizona is going to do everything they can to take away Acuff and just say, let's make somebody else beat us. But that's why you have Malik Thomas. Malik Thomas is capable of being that guy and does have the confidence to be that guy. It's and he's going to have to be. He's going to have a big game. I think Malik Thomas is going to have a 25-point game for Arkansas to have a chance. And I think Trevin Brazil is going to have maybe 16, maybe 16 and 13, like 16 points, 13 boards, and a few blocks.
Yep. It's gonna take a big game from everybody to get rid of the number one team.
Yeah, and Arizona likes to get to the foul line, as does Arkansas. And if Arkansas gets in foul trouble, it's over. It's over with. Like the biggest complaint about Arkansas has been their defensive play or lack thereof, and that's fair. But when you're playing with such a small rotation, it makes sense. You don't want guys to get in foul trouble. And we can hang with anybody running up and down the floor. Arkansas is going to be kind of like how High Point was against Arkansas. If Arkansas can keep it close in the second half and down the stretch, then the pressure all falls on the 1 seed, right?
Yep.
Because you're the, I mean, yeah, you're a 4 seed, but you're the 4 seed going up against the 1 seed. All the pressure's on the 1 seed. If you can make them sweat late, that's an advantage. And if it's close late, then you can give an edge to who the best player on the floor is going to be, and that's Darius Acuff Jr.
Yep.
So
We'll
we're both
see.
still going to pick Arizona, and I think we're both picking Arizona for the same reason: depth. They've got more depth. I mean, that's the reason. They're props top to bottom, the more talented team, at least on paper. But depth. But I don't think there's that much difference in talent. I think just the difference is at least from five, like those six, right? Those six that are going to play for Arkansas. I don't think there's much difference in talent there between Arkansas and Arizona. But the bench is going to could very well be the difference, and Arizona's is deeper.
Yeah, I wonder what the final stat was on bench points between Arkansas and High Point, because at one point it was like 28 points to 2. It's like, yeah, because Arkansas has no bench.
Yeah,
Um,
they like to talk about that, but it doesn't matter if you're only playing six guys. Of course, it's going to be a low number. What do the starters have? Who gives a crap, right? Just who are we scoring more points than they are overall? That's what we need. When you're only playing six guys, that makes sense. That your bench is gonna get outscored. Of course it is. You're only pulling one guy off the bench. Um, but yeah, Arizona. Yeah, I see them. I see them winning Thursday. I'd love to be wrong, but I think they have as good a shot as anyone left in the tournament to win it. Have there been any disappointments that have stood out to you just watching? Other than Florida getting beat, it's hard to say that's a disappointment. I didn't pick them because we didn't pick them coming out of that region,
no.
but getting out at
Oh,
32, yeah, it's a bit of a surprise.
I'd say my biggest disappointment, because I think it was a shock to a lot of people, uh, was the A&M versus, who was it? St. Mary's? Is that who they played?
Yes.
Yeah, everybody. I mean, A&M hadn't been playing good ball the last couple of weeks. St. Mary's made a little bit of a run last season. Um, Everybody's kind of expected St. Mary's to roll past them, and they did not. That was a very low scoring game. I think it was like 65 to 50 or something like that. Man, where is that? Oh, 63 to 50. Very low scoring game.
Well,
Um,
everybody didn't have them rolling over A&M. I had A&M beating them in every bracket that I've
Not in
been.
our bracket.
Well, not okay. Well, not in ours, but in every other bracket I filled out, I had A&M beating St. Mary's just because, again, the SEC they're more battle tested. Um, but this disappointment, I guess you'd have to say Florida because you had like Florida peaked against Arkansas at in
At
Gainesville.
home.
When
Mm-hmm.
they played, however long ago it was, a few weeks or so, Florida looked like they could have beaten anybody that night. They looked incredible. They looked like the national champions that night. And then you get ousted in the second round of the SEC tournament. I mean, and in convincing fashion, like Vanderbilt beat them handily.
Mm-hmm.
And Vanderbilt's not a powerhouse. Arkansas beat them in the SEC tournament championship. Now that team looked a lot better than that Vandy team that played Arkansas in conference play in the regular season. So they were a tough out. But it's like, wow, they did that to Florida, and then Florida to turn around and lose, albeit a very close game. But to lose in the second round to 9 seed Iowa, it was surprising. I
Yeah,
say nothing
and to have a
surprises me, but it was surprising.
yeah, and to have sort of a boneheaded defensive play to end that game. Uh, they pretty much were wide open. Their guy Boogie was out of position to yeah to protect against that 3 point, and they had a wide open, clean look to end that game. So,
Well,
and
you
then
were
with
in a
their what 3 seconds and some change, they didn't even get a good look to tie or take the lead.
well, you were in a press, like you were pressing. Why? I mean, I get it. You're trying to get a steal in
Three,
a play, I guess, but
you're not defending against the only thing that can beat you.
well, that's the thing. All you have to do is beat that press, and then it's 3-on-2. You know what I mean? If you beat the press, then you get to pick your shot. And Iowa did that, and it was wide open, and it was money. And then you call a timeout, and then the play coming out of the timeout, you have your point guard just drive to the hoop and dish, but he dishes too late. He's dishing as like right before time expired. If you're going to go to the bucket with that little time on the clock, you just got to take it up. Like you got to take the shot at that point. Not not good clock management, not good defense by Florida in the final seconds of that one. Very disappointing finish if you're a Gator fan. Um, again, not saddened by it by any means. I didn't have Florida coming out of. I didn't pick Florida to come out of that region in any bracket. I don't think I had them coming out of any bracket I filled out, and I filled out like four, not including ours. I had Houston in every one. I think it was. I think I picked Houston in every bracket coming out of that region. Uh, but Florida, after that game against Arkansas, became the team I disliked the most. Not because of the players. I thought the players, I mean, they're really good players. It's because of Todd Golden. Watching the way that he interacts with players and opposing coaches just rubs me the wrong way. He did the same crap he did with Calipari with the Iowa coach, and the Iowa coach, like Calipari, just gave it right back to him. But the difference, Iowa ended up on the winning side of things and ended Florida's season. But Todd Golden is just a dude. Some guy on, I think Outkick said it today. Just comes off as a guy that just needs to get his ass kicked. Yeah, totally 100% agree with that. Todd Golden just comes off as a complete tool.
Oh,
Obviously, don't know the guy, but seeing how he acts and treats players on the court and opposing coaches, nah, man, dude's an absolute tool. So I'm not happy to see Florida go home early. Great,
no.
hell of a coach. Of course, he's a hell of a coach. He's a national champion. Not taking anything away from him there, but total tool bag, as far as I'm concerned. So I can't say that was a disappointment for me personally, but if you're a Florida fan, of course it is.
It was a disappointment to my bracket because I had them moving on. So,
Yeah, I guess so. But if Arkansas pulls it off and beats Arizona Thursday, that's going to ruin every bracket I have, and I welcome it. I welcome it more as much as anything. Like
yep.
that would be a really cool thing to be wrong about
Yep.
as a Razorback fan. Okay, other takeaways from the NCAA tournament, men or women's side.
I'm not following any of the women's side, so
I've had it on at times, and it's
there's been some
been
blowouts from what I've seen.
it's the same story. And that's why Caitlin Clark was really such a savior to the women's game because it gave people reason to watch. And that's not being critical of women's play. That's being critical of how one sided it is. There is no parity in women's collegiate basketball. There's
It's the same four teams pretty much every year.
yes, and the opening round games. What did UConn win by 70 in their first round game?
I don't know. You can say that, but hell, Florida beat somebody by dang near 50 points
That's
in the
true.
opening round. So
Okay, but that's one game.
yeah, it's one game.
Siena was beating Duke by like 11 points at halftime in the first round of that one. So, of course, you're going to get that. Or you're going to get a 1 and a 16 blowout, but you're going to get some surprises too. I mean, Duke came back and won it, but it's the same story every year with the women's bracket. I don't, a 16 has never beaten a one seed in that tournament, and it's always so one sided.
But a lot of
And
that has to do with they play on their home courts as well. The top seed plays at their house, which is a big factor.
I mean, does it have a lot to do with it?
I don't know, considering that the crowd's only at 10% capacity, probably not. But I mean, playing at home, probably some comfortability with that.
UConn's probably got a big house, I would think. Uh, but I don't know. Now the Iowa, oh gosh, was is it Virginia? I think it was Iowa Virginia that women's game. That was a good one. I think it went into double OT, and Virginia ended up winning it as a 10 seed, being 2 seed Iowa, which I did pay a little bit of attention to that just because I remember some of those players uh, on that Iowa team that played with Caitlin Clark. There were some good players on that team. And really it was on in the background. My uncle was in the hospital where I work, so I went up to go see him. And they were watching. He and my aunt were watching the game, watching that game yesterday, and so I just sat there and watched it with them, watched the ending. But I kept up with the score a little bit on my phone, um, just checking the news. I wasn't checking it often. Um, Sports news, stuff going on in the sports world, etc. Um, but yeah, that's with the women's tournament. It's been the same story primarily. I mean, there was that one good game, but there's no parity, and there's nothing that really is going to keep me interested as far as competition goes. The Final Four can get interesting, and I did very much. I did watch the women's national championship game last year just to see if UConn could give South Carolina a run for their money, and they beat the absolute brakes off of them. So it was weird because I've never rooted for UConn in basketball, women's basketball, because they were the Yankees. You know, they were the Yankees of women's college basketball. So I was always rooting for whoever played them. But South Carolina became that team. And so I was rooting for UConn to take down the new Yankees. And so that it was just weird to be in that position. I was like, I've never rooted for UConn, the UConn women's basketball team until now. It was just, and it's all about just me pulling for the underdog there because I don't have a dog in the fight. I wouldn't have lost any sleep either way. But I just wanted to see a game and an interesting one, and that was interesting. Which is kind of how I look at sports now. If I don't have a dog in the fight, just give me something interesting, and and I'll be happy. I'll be entertained. You don't always get that, so it's good when you do. But the men's tournament always interesting. Even in some blowout losses, it's always interesting. Teams that have impressed you as far as on the men's side of the tournament, going back to that, who do we think has looked the best to this point, 2 games in?
Oh man, Michigan's looked really good. Um, they've looked really good, but Arizona probably. Um, yeah, I'm scrolling through right now. I don't know, Illinois, man. I think they've looked really good as well. They've had a couple of very convincing wins over Illinois or over Pennsylvania and VCU. Beat VCU by 21 points and beat Penn by 35. They're rolling pretty good. I'd say Houston better watch out 3 versus 2 on that one on Thursday at 9:05 p.m. I think that one will be a fun game to watch. The Tennessee Iowa State game. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about that one. Tennessee
Let,
might
let me
surprise us again.
let me cut you off before I forget these other things to touch up on. Uh, Illinois, Houston, they play each other in the round of 16.
Yes,
That's a huge game. That's the
huge game.
biggest matchup to me. I was going to say Houston has looked the most impressive to me. That they've taken care of business in the second half of their games, and really haven't made things interesting as far as from a competition standpoint. Houston's looked really good to me. Illinois does look good. Seeing Zvonimir Ivasic. I know he was a former Razorback, went to go play, transferred to Illinois to go play with his brother, hit the portal, went to Illinois so he could go play with his brother. And Illinois is a good team. I saw him make some plays in that game. It would be nice for if the Hogs still had him. I think that, especially with I like Ewan. I really like Malik Ewan, and I think he fits what Arkansas wants to do better. But Ivasic would be a huge boost to that lineup if they still had him. But they don't. But yeah, Illinois has looked good. Arizona's looked good. Houston has looked really good. Duke,
Iowa State looked really good at bouncing Kentucky out the other night.
yes. Iowa State. Well, here's the thing: they were only up one at the half,
Yep.
and they did that with a 3-pointer to end the half.
Yep.
Uh, and then the second half, it was just all Iowa State. It was just over. And as an Arkansas fan,
And you
Kentucky
see it.
is the thoroughbred of the SEC. Uh, I'd say to what Duke is to the ACC, you could almost, especially nowadays, what Duke is to the ACC, you used to could say Duke or North Carolina, but Duke has been the clear cut
Kentucky
superior.
probably spent the most money on their team this year.
They spent
Just
more
get
than
beat by
anybody.
20.
I think they spent more than anybody else in the country. Yeah.
Yep. Just get beat by 20 in the round of 32.
Yeah. But you can pay them, but you got to find a way to get them to play together. And Mark Pope didn't do the greatest job of that. The team did well at times. The Wildcats handed Arkansas its only loss at home this season.
Yep.
So they looked good at times, but then they kind of floundered after that, especially in the second half of the second round of the NCAA tournament against Iowa State. But yeah, Iowa State's looked good. Uh yeah, that's really all that's stood out to me. I Arkansas Arkansas did what Arkansas does in these first two games, or at least especially in the game against High Point. This is how they handled the SEC tournament and against High Point. They just stayed close and then they separated at the end. When it was time to go win the game, Arkansas found a way. They got it done. They didn't do that so much against Ole Miss in the SEC tournament. They tried every way in the world to lose that game,
Yep.
but they still got the job done and found a way. But they've separated themselves when it mattered in the final minutes of the game. And so it's just kind of been this Arkansas story that we've seen all season from them. So I don't know. I would just say the more talented team has won in those games that they've played. And but Thursday's going to be tough. They're going to, but that there shouldn't be any pressure. There shouldn't be any pressure on Arkansas. I'm
No.
only worried that they're the trendy pick. I don't want that to get in their head. I want them to still have that nothing to lose mentality. Because I don't know. So selfishly, of course, I want them to have a shot.
Yep. So, what game are you more excited to see? The Illinois Houston or Michigan Alabama?
Oh gosh, Alabama's looked
Yeah, that's
good.
a tough one. Yeah,
Like Alabama's looked really good.
one of the
You
top
could throw them
offenses
in
in the
there.
country.
Yes. I think they are the highest scoring team in
Yeah,
the tournament.
average over 90 points.
Yeah, I mean that's a good team. And they've looked really good these first two rounds. That's a good matchup. Gosh, I think that's more interesting to me. Alabama, Michigan. Alabama is scrappy. They're a scrappy team. They've beaten tough teams all year. They were a 2 seed entering the SEC tournament. Um, they of course lost in the who'd they lose to? Ole Miss, yeah, in the SEC tournament because I was kind of looking forward to seeing that Arkansas Alabama rematch on a neutral
Everybody
floor.
was. Yeah.
We didn't get to see it, but this is more interesting to me. Illinois Houston is definitely intriguing, but I'm more excited about Alabama Michigan. That's going to be a good one because Alabama, I mean, their version of Acuff, he's not as good as Acuff, but he is a very fine college basketball player. Will be a pro, first round draft pick. Phylon. Alabama's got a squad. I don't like the team just as an Arkansas fan, but it's a hell of a team. It is a good team. Um, I am interested in that. Okay, anything to touch up on before we get out of here? It's been a March Madness ramble, but it's what it is. This episode has been kind of fitting to the tournament so far, at least on the men's side.
Yeah. I don't know if you've seen it. I think it was last night, and Moses Moody had his freak injury. Um,
I heard
did
about it.
not look did not look good. Feel for the guy. Hopefully, he can make a speedy recovery. But yeah, dude, it did not look good. He went up for a dunk and yeah, didn't didn't get all the way up, man. Like he was
I,
in pain when he went up in the air. So
yeah, I heard it was a non-contact thing, but that stuff can happen, especially in hoops. All the cutting that those
great.
players
He
do.
made a great defensive play. He took Cooper Flag's cookies and was on a breakaway dunk. And yeah,
Well, hate that for Moses Moody, the former Hog. Yeah, speedy recovery. But man, we're out of time. We're gonna have to get out of here on a sour note. But we'll see y'all next week. I'm Graham Powell.
the Brown.
Deuces, y'all.